Kick off with America's Mayor live from Palm Beach, Florida. And that is not Palm Beach, Florida, in back of us by special Ted trickery. We have, and he's laughing there like he just like the cat who swallowed the canary. And I bet you haven't heard that one in a long time. Cat who swallowed the canary. And I think it's Wednesday, April 1st. There's going to be a rocket takes off for the moon. Artemis 2. We haven't had one of those in decades. And going to be a couple of firsts. First black astronaut to go to the moon. The first woman to go to the moon. The crew's not going to land on the moon, but it's going to enter the lunar orbit to get ready for a landing. There's Victor Glover, who is the head of the crew, and he has a very, very distinguished career. He was born in 1976 in Pomona. He was his dad's a police officer, or was a police officer, maybe he still is. His mother a bookkeeper. His grandfather enlisted in the Air Force during the Korean War and was rejected because he was African American as a pilot. I was rejected because I have punctured eardrums, which I guess is a pretty good reason to reject somebody. He was rejected for a horrible reason, his granddad. But he's made up for it and really shown the United States what they lost with his granddad, because he's had a heck of a career. He was a multiple sport athlete at Ontario High and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. He was a pole vaulter. He was a football player, and his best sport was wrestling. So if they get into any trouble with spacemen, right, he should be in good shape. I don't know if they know how to wrestle. And he entered the Navy, and that's where his career was in the Navy. That's where he flew missions, including combat missions. And now on Wednesday, if the weather is perfect, it has to fit a certain pattern. They wouldn't be scheduling it for Wednesday if the 2-day forecast, 3-day forecast, whatever, when they first scheduled it, didn't seem to show all of the things that they need. But of course, that can change. As you know, the weatherman is not infallible. Weathermen are not held accountable, right, Ted? They're like members of Congress. They're like members of Congress. They're not held accountable.
MLB batters, they're allowed to be.
They're allowed to. Yeah, well, not as bad as members of Congress.
You're right. They take.
They're much more honorable.
Yeah. That's funny.
So North Korea is claiming that it has a missile that went 2,500 kilonewtons, up from about 1,970, which would mean it would make a pretty good try at getting to the United States, except nobody believes it. But the reality is, thank you. But the reality is that it can go pretty damn far.
Right.
And this is a great lesson to us, because this is not necessary. Bill Clinton could have stopped this if he had the gumption that Donald Trump has. And from day one, Donald Trump has put his foot down and said, I'm sorry, you're not going to be nuclear. Now, there is a slight difference. Now, believe me, I'm making no argument in favor of the fat pig in North Korea having nuclear weapons.
Right.
But there is something that uniquely disqualifies Iran from having nuclear weapons. And it's that the Ayatollah and his regime is completely insane. The others have some degree of insanity, but they're not completely insane. And most importantly, they're not particularly suicidal, including Fatso. Obviously he loves eating too much. So he and Xi Jinping and Putin would be reluctant to unleash a nuclear war because they wouldn't be here within an hour or two of the unleashing of it.
Right.
In fact, before anything even arrives here, they might be gone, since we are much closer to them than they are to us.
Right.
And and seeing what we've been able to do with the Ayatollah and with Maduro, they got to know we can take them at any time we want. So, as Ronald Reagan said, mutually assured destruction works so long as the leaders of the countries that have the capacity to do this kind of destruction are rational. They can be evil, but rational, or wanting to preserve their own lives, even if they're not rational. He's not. The Ayatollah isn't, and they're proving it. They're proving that they're irrational. A lot of the ways in which they've conducted this war is irrational. The fact that they're dead is irrational. They don't have to be dead. They virtually committed suicide, and they're committing suicide. Now finally, they're starting to get worried about taking on the position of Ayatollah. In fact, we can't find the Ayatollah. Apparently, he doesn't talk, he doesn't walk, he doesn't look, he doesn't see. You can't see him, you can't talk to him. He's like the Wizard of Oz, right? At least the Wizard of Oz would talk behind the curtain, right?
Right.
This guy doesn't even talk.
Right.
Trump was pretty honest about his real objective. About his real objective in Iran. He says, "Well, my preference really would be to take all the oil." He's a businessman, and now but of course that has a much bigger implication than just taking the oil. One of the possibilities here, as this goes along, is for us to end this war and have made it worth the sacrifice of human life and the resources that are sacrificed and continue to be sacrificed. Their capacity to disrupt the world through the Strait of Hormuz has to be taken away from them.
Right.
As well as, of course, it goes without saying, their nuclear facilities, their nuclear capacity. The first can be taken away from them by taking Kharg Island, which is north of the Straits of Hormuz. It's the place where they have 90, I emphasize 90% of their, they have 90% of their oil and a very large amount of their natural gas as well. And there's a picture of some of the facilities at Kharg Island. This is as you look at the Persian Gulf. You see the Persian Gulf there in the left-hand corner as you face it. And then you see the various tanks that contain oil and or natural gas. Now, I don't know if 90% of their oil is there at any one given time, or 90% goes through there.
Right.
I would think 90% goes through there.
Right.
So if you blow it up, you get rid of what's there, and you don't allow any more to go through, and they're finished. They don't have.
Right.
They run out. I mean, they're even with this operating. They're taking tremendous economic blow here. They're not able to. I mean, they get some of their oil through, but not regularly and not on the schedule that they used to.
Right.
you take this out, and their economy is there are some people who think it's finished in a couple of days.
Right.
But that's the island. Now,
Right.
what are your options with regard to that island? One, you could blockade it rather than bomb it or invade it and take it over. You could blockade it. In other words, don't let anything come in, don't let anything go out. With the substantial Navy that we have, even using some small portion of it, you could probably accomplish that. And with the air surveillance, you could destroy it from the air, like they destroyed the military facilities on there. You could destroy the facilities used for gas and for oil. Then you would, anticipating a decent government following this one for the people of Iran who've been put through hell, that would really disadvantage them. People say forever. I would say like 20 years maybe to get back, maybe 10 if they're very fortunate.
Right.
Or you could a combination of occupy it and blockade it, which is what I think we're planning to do. I think another 3,000 Marines showed up today.
3,500. Yeah.
Showed up today to add to the 2,000 we had there.
At least already there. Yeah, we'll get.
And there are 3,000 more scheduled to come. And at least the word out of the Pentagon today is there are 10,000 more that are headed there. So the president is doing a pretty good job of trying to hide the ball, but pretty hard to hide 10,000 troops, right?
Yeah, right.
Also, the USS Tripoli arrived. They just got there. They just got there a day, 2 days ago. That's the one with 3,500 sailors and Marines.
Yeah.
The additional sailors and Marines. So that charge island that you see is 16 miles off Iran's coast in the Persian Gulf, and 300 miles northwest of the Strait of Hormuz. So, and it has 90%. It carries about 90% of Iran's oil imports. That's what it says. Those are the possibilities. And I would say the possibility that seems the most likely to me is that you blockade it and invade it. Invade it and blockade it. Maybe that's the order in which you do it. There is speculation, and probably more than speculation, that there are some of the IRGC on that island. Now, since we did a massive bombing of it and focused on the military facilities, and are pretty comfortable that we've taken out their military facilities. In doing that, we had to take out a lot of the IRGC. And I don't know that they've been able to do any reinforcements given the fact that we've got a lot of ships in the water there. Right. So we'd have to see how many they have to do battle with our Marines. But I'm sure from our satellite surveillance and even aircraft surveillance, we've got that down to probably exactly the number. The second problem that we have, if they don't make a deal, the second problem we have is there is every reason to believe that they have a certain amount of enriched uranium that is lower than whatever we have already reached at Fordo and Natanz and those other places. And we are pretty certain where it is. And it might not be able to be taken out with a bunker buster. it might need some assistance from manpower and physical addition to with equipment to get it out, make sure it's gone. Now that requires not necessarily an invasion. That can be done with an extraction. You know, the same way we extracted Maduro, in the same way we got Bin Laden, in the same way, except with a larger number of forces to protect the group that goes in. And we're sending troops that are expert in that there, that are able to do that. That would be exactly a mission for the specialized paratroopers. I mean, it would seem to me that's the reason you got them. Unless you're going to parachute onto Charge Island instead of an amphibious landing. But I'm sure with all those Marines there, they'd be really angry if you didn't utilize some kind of amphibious landing. I mean, they've been there for a long time. You think they're there to play cards? You don't understand a Marine. We don't want them to go to war, God forbid. And you don't, and I don't, but they do. That's what they're in the Marines for. So there's every possibility that we're in the course of ending this war, we're going to have to extract nuclear material to make certain that this country doesn't have any possibility in the future without our knowing about it. I mean, the options for Charge Island are take it, liquidate it, blockade it, or take it and blockade it. And I think that's the one that I would select.
Right.
The options for the nuclear material, unless our bunker busters unless we can be certain we can get there with some kind of a combination of bunker buster bombs, right. It sounds like it's going to require what we absolutely abhor. The idea troubles us tremendously for all kinds of reasons, and that is boots on the ground. It's going to require boots on the ground, at least to the extent of a fairly large extraction mission. In this case, not extracting human beings, but extracting nuclear material. The interesting thing, and I was on the Piers Morgan show today, and as you know, Piers largely is, I guess I could say he opposes this war. Or maybe he's skeptical. He raises good questions about it. But one of the things that he said, because I was saying that, using the example that I use about Ronald Reagan saying that nuclear material shouldn't be in the hands of, nuclear bombs shouldn't be in the hands of irrational people. He was saying, well, they're not so irrational. Look how smart what they did with attacking the Arab countries, creating the pressure on the United States. Well, I think that actually turns out in the long run to be pretty damn irrational, because you can see why they might have originally done it in the hope that this would pressure the United States and Israel to back off because of Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and Qatar and Bahrain saying to them, stop, we don't want to get hit anymore. Every indication is that the Arab states have had exactly the opposite reaction, particularly the Emirates, which is, this is a reason why we can't live with them long term. And let's get it over with now, because we don't want to have to face this again in 5 years or again in 10 years. I mean, we have been facing it for 47. And they have made making peace in the Middle East impossible. As I've said forever, I don't know how long, long enough so my voice is tired. There's no making peace in the Middle East as long as the reign of terror is there. As long as the Islamic Republic of Iran exists, with the desire to become what Muhammad dreamed of, which was a Muslim empire, there's no possibility that they are going to allow there to be peace in the Middle East. Even if Israel disappeared as they dream of, they would find a way to disrupt the Arab countries that they ancestrally hate and religiously oppose, Shia Sunni. I mean, the big hatred goes back to before there was the pedophile and mass murderer Muhammad on this earth. It goes back to the Persian Empire and the Arab countries. It is not exaggerated to say it was hatred. The same problem might exist even if you didn't have all of the incentives and encouragements toward murder that exist in the Quran and that was given by Muhammad. But the Arab states, the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, are, as well as Kuwait and Bahrain, are becoming increasingly hawkish, and for good reason. They're people of common sense, and they realize they're never going to be safe, they're never going to be at peace, as long as this insane theocracy is there. But you know, it really does illustrate the insanity of the Quran if you don't correct it. If you leave it uncorrected, if you leave it just as it is. Because they're not misinterpreting the Quran. They're interpreting it strictly, but they're not misinterpreting it. So let's say the next big step for us, after we take out the military facilities, whatever is left in Iran, the next step is to do everything we can to degrade their economic facilities, which are pretty well degraded, and to open Hormuz, which will require taking Sharj Island in one way or another. How would Iran? I mean, how will Iran respond? And there's an outline by one of the thinkers at the Atlantic Council that Iran's going to be very, very difficult. You know, the Atlantic Council, you wonder what side of the Atlantic they're really on, but Iran starts off with a 190,000 person army. How much of that is left? I don't know. Not just dead, but having left, having defected and or put down your arms and gone home. But this guy, Joe Costa with the Atlantic Council, points out that they could go into a counterinsurgency right away. And what would they do? They would first, of course, take whatever the heck they have and throw it at our troops. The Speaker of the Parliament has said that they just can't wait to burn our troops. Then, of course, they would continue their strikes on all of the Gulf oil hubs to the extent that they are going to continue to have resources to do that. At some point, that's going to become impossible for them. Let's hope that point is coming pretty quickly.
Right.
They can push their proxies to do whatever they have left, which they are now doing with Hezbollah. But each day, Hezbollah gets diminished by Israel. And as soon as Israel realized that Iran would rely on them to attack also, they began including Hezbollah in the group they were taking out.
Right.
So whatever Hezbollah was a week ago, it's less now, right? And it's going to be less tomorrow. And their attacks seem to have been failures in the main. The only attacks that really are working, well, I shouldn't say the only ones, there are a couple that actually have gotten through, but the only ones that seem to have any impact at all are the spray bomb ones, cluster bombs. And they do not do they don't do catastrophic damage. They do damage and they can put lives in jeopardy and they can create tremendous injuries but they're not going to win a war for you. And as I said, there's a point at which it's all gone for them, and I think we're getting there.
And Bibi says within a week, or he says within days, that Iran's defenses will be, I guess, completely degraded. I'm not sure what.
No, I think what he's saying is that they're not gonna have anything to fight with.
Right.
They're degraded now.
Now the question is,
they're down to 4 or 5 strikes a day, 6 strikes a day, and then these cluster bombs. I mean, I'm not even sure. You watch those. I don't know how much damage they do. A lot of them don't do any damage. Some do damage. Some of them, every once in a while, gets lucky and hits something that's very inflammatory, and some of them hit people and most often create injuries, not fatalities.
Right.
But if you look at that cluster bomb and it all fell off like this, you don't see any big explosion on the ground, like you used to when a ballistic missile hit it.
Right. That's a good point.
I don't know how many ballistic missiles they have left. Israel is certain they've gotten rid of 70%.
70?
They're certain they have gotten rid of 70%. And I think they're being conservative. Notice the explosions. Now, those are terrible explosions. And by God, I would not want that happen on my head.
Right.
But that's on somebody's head, not on an entire building or complex or facility. Yeah, the one there in the middle looks pretty good, but look at the size of those. Those are limited strikes, and that's what they are now confined to. There's going to come a point at which those limited strikes are going to be so limited they're not going to happen. Now it looks like one of their Hail Mary passes. Of course, they would never call it the Hail Mary pass, since I think they don't. They despise the Blessed Mother, but. You could see that they're now calling on the Houthis to help them.
Right.
And what they want the Houthis to do, the Houthis are attacking Israel to no effect. They've never had much of an effect attacking Israel. They attacked Israel before. They're too damn far away. They make the Israeli, even their Iron Dome, which is the least sophisticated of the Israeli facilities, it gives the Iron Dome the one thing it usually doesn't have, to be 100% accurate, 95. And that is, it has very little time. Like if they're shooting from Gaza over into Israel, it's 12 minutes. However, Yemen is a lot further away than Gaza.
Right.
So there's plenty of time to deal with the missiles from the Houthis. What they were very successful at doing is blocking up the Red Sea. And since they are blocking up the body of water on the other side, the Persian Gulf or the Arabian Sea or whatever you want to call it, they're trying to get the Houthis to replicate what they did a year and a half ago before they were bombed into submission, and that is to block up the Red Sea. That's going to add another mission. It has added another mission to us and the Israelis, and that is to take them out. Now, we did a pretty good job of that a year ago, and then we made peace with them, and then Israel continued with them and degraded them further. They've had time to rebuild a bit. They were probably the most effective of the Iranian proxies when push came to shove. It could be because we paid the least amount of attention to them in terms of bombing them into submission, which has to be done now if they're going to try to take out the Red Sea.
Right.
That would affect another about 10% of the world oil.
Right.
The pipelines that have been reactivated will make up very, very shortly for about half of the oil that isn't coming through the Gulf of Hormuz. When you add the Red Sea, of course, then that becomes even more difficult. So that has to be combated. And the Houthis in Yemen have to be neutralized. Uh, they the strait that they deal with, which we'll show you when we come back on, is called Bab el Mandeb Strait, and nowhere near as famous or critical as the Strait of Hormuz. But when Hormuz is gone, and then this is gone, now you go from 20% to 30%. Obviously, terrible goes to catastrophic, or probably that overdoes it a little bit. It's about 10% of the world's natural gas and oil that passes through the 20-mile passage that sits southwest of Yemen. That's the, and they have had success in the past with drones and missiles in blocking it for a period of time. Now, that was before they had been very seriously attacked. That was before they had surrendered. Have they been able to rebuild so that they can be a very sizable force? I don't know. We'll see. But I think before we get to see, you're going to see a substantial amount of bombing dedicated to Yemen, and particularly to that western part of Yemen where the Houthis operate. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
wow,
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
wow,
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
wow,
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
wow,
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Welcome back, and in the background is, if you hear a little laughing in the background, is my wonderful granddaughter Grace, and she is running around, as my mother used to say, like a chicken without a head. That's a terrible expression, by the way. I never thought of it when I was a kid, how terrible that expression is. I'm sorry that I said that. There she goes. You can just see right there. She's just running back. She's trying to distract me, and it's working. So we have with us Homeira Hesami. Hesami, who is the head of the Iranian American, is it Coalition of North Texas?
Community of North Texas.
Community of North Texas. And we've had Homeira on before, and she really is very, very good. And we're so happy to have her. Tell me how you see things, Homeira. Obviously, you're watching this 24 hours a day. You've got your heart and your whole life invested in this.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I know this is a very difficult time, but
yes, I mean, this morning I woke up with the news of executing 2 more political prisoners, the MEK members in the prison. So that was just unbelievable.
Do we know who they are, Homeira?
Yeah, the names are here. I have to just put my glasses on and just get the name. Sorry, I just don't. Yeah, give me a moment to.
So this, of course, was reported by Reuters today. So confirmed by the media that Iran executed 2 members of the MEK, Akbar Deneshvar Kar, age 58, and Mohammed Taghavi, age 59.
Oh, yeah, Mohammed Taghavi and Akbar Daneshvar.
Now,
and
were they arrested or were they arrested and executed?
They were. One of them has been in prison on and off for 8 years. Oh. And the other one was picked up a couple years ago in the rallies. And what the regime is doing is trying to break the prisoners' spirit. They're trying to break him. That's the whole purpose of putting the people in the prison, to break him, and then they recant of what they have done. But it hasn't been succeeded. I remember in our community, we've been trying to save their lives because they've been on death rows for a while. And these are part of other members with the same case. So we're very worried, for their fate. But that's the regime. In the middle of bombing campaign, the regime is continues its execution. So that just tells you that the regime itself, is afraid of the people, of the organized resistance, of the political prisoners who haven't given up.
And what's going on the ground in Iran, as far as you can tell, Homeira? What kind of
the strategy of the resistance, that they came up with it in 1981 after they realized that you have to kind of topple the regime with force, with armed struggle. So that strategy is becoming a reality on the ground right now. So the people and all the rebellious youth have come to this conclusion that you have to get organized, you have to get armed and topple this regime. We were witnessing the armed attack on Khamenei's headquarters in February 23rd, like 5 days before the whole conflict started. Mm-hmm. And that was just a phenomenon because these people, they knew that, this is a very hard task to pick up, because that headquarters is secured by 8,000, I guess, security forces. But they were willing to take on the regime, and they went for the Khamenei himself. So that determination shows that you have to fight the regime with force. And that strategy is realized right now on the ground, and that's why the regime is killing these prisoners, is executing them in the middle of a war, which no sound government would do. They have time to go through the court system.
But I'm critical to them. because what they're trying to do is everything they can do to demoralize the population, particularly the dissidents, the MEK and the leadership of it. And it's the only strategy they have left. Unfortunately, they're one of the regimes in the history of the world that killed its own people. You know, you look at some of these regimes, these terrorist regimes, and they kill other people. They don't kill themselves. In the case of the reign, I call them the reign of terror. In the case of the reign of terror, they've killed more Iranians than have anybody else. They've killed a lot of other people too, Americans and Israelis and you name it. But they've killed more Iranians by far than anyone else.
Yes, because the Iranian people wanted to overthrow the regime from the beginning.
Of
So
course.
if they wouldn't kill the people, they wouldn't be staying in power. You know, the killing machine is continuing, and that's why they can stay in power for a little bit longer. But what we have to do, you know, in the international community outside, to really condemn these executions. Because if we don't show a big reaction and, you know, condemn and denounce this type of killings, the regime will continue doing it. And we have to put pressure on the regime. So that's important for the audience to know.
Yeah, but the only thing that's going to work here is to end this and to make the world safe is to do away with the regime. It can't exist in any form because it is a cancer, and even if you limit it to a small cancer, it'll grow back again very quickly. It has to be eliminated. And I think no matter what is said for diplomatic effect, that's the aim of the United States and Israel, to eliminate the regime. And I think it's now the aim of the Arab countries. I think they went too far with the Emirates and with Saudi Arabia. They thought they were going to intimidate them into trying to stop the United States. And instead, they're encouraging the United States because, like everyone now, they realize that they can't live safely with this regime.
Yes, that's the problem. As you mentioned, you know, it's a cancerous, and the cancer will grow even though you cut it down. It will grow. So that regime change is the ultimate solution, which needs to be done and will be done by the Iranian people and their organized resistance on the ground. You know, we have people like this, political prisoners that they executed today. You know, they've been tortured. It's not just like they've been in prison and they just picked them up and killed them. They've been tortured. They go through so much torture, deprivation from like sleep, and you name it. They go through, you know, the visitation rights. You know, I was in prison just a little bit, you know, not like.
Yeah, tell me. Would you mind telling us again your personal history?
Yeah, I mean,
and your family.
I was picked up just because, you know, I was researching and I had some friends who were involved with the MEK. So they arrested all of us. And that was like a waking up moment for me in the prison, even though I was just a, you know, teenager, a 16-year-old naive girl. You know, I realized that the regime is afraid of the MEK. And to this date, that hasn't changed. You know, the MEK is the backbone of the resistance. You know, they have formed resistance units underground, and those units are forming to make the backbone of National Liberation Army. You know, these people are dedicated, the MEK members, and they have inspired the youth on the ground to get organized.
They inspire me too.
Yes, I mean, they inspire me every day. You know, when they were attacking Khamenei's compartment, Khamenei's headquarters in February, you know, that was just like, you know, I woke up, you know, I said, okay, I thought that the resistance units are just tiny, you know, they're like do little things. But then I realized, no, they have actually formed a National Liberation Army. And this army is the one that is going to tackle the regime and overthrow it. So that's where we have to put the focus on. The army that is building right now and is expanding right now inside the country.
Now, what is the feeling and the attitude among the people in the Iranian community that you're involved with and that you help to lead in Texas.
Yeah, we all believe that, in the platform for national council of resistance of Iran with the leadership of Mrs. Mariam Rajavi and her 10-point plan. And as you know, that she announced the formation of provisional government on the 28th of February. So we truly believe that this is in the best interest of the American people, the Arab, people, and the Iranian people to support this provisional government. Because dealing with the regime, you have to overthrow the regime. You have to have a democratic platform for it. And that platform that Mrs. Mariam Rajavi has introduced, her 10-point plan, has the endorsement of thousands of parliamentarians and the majority of the U.S. House of Representatives. So it's not something that you're building or you're reinventing and you're trying to find out, what to do. So that's the platform. And that's recognition of the provisional government, supporting the Iranian people and the organized resistance morally for regime change. That would be in the best interest of everyone. And
that's absolutely correct. And I think, God willing, that's gonna happen. That'll be the end result here, and it'll be much, much better for the world. Much better.
Yeah, and I tell you, Mayor, this weekend I attended CPAC. CPAC was in Grapevine, Texas.
Oh, my goodness! You attended CPAC, and so were you there when the Nepo Shah was there?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't know where he was invited. I mean, I have no idea why he was invited.
He probably paid them.
Yeah, but I mean, his supporters, or I felt like we're living back in the Shah's time with the Savak, and people are spying on us. The people, anybody who wasn't saying the king is eternal and the long link.
King is eternal?
The king?
You got to be kidding me. The king is eternal?
So they were forcing, they were just forcing people that didn't, weren't a part of the, just regular people, not their supporter. It was just crazy. As I said, I felt
it's really a shame that CPAC gave him that venue to do this. I mean, his qualifications to lead Iran is that he's the son of a murderer and a crook. But
as I said, we experienced just a glimpse of, what his plan is. His plan is exactly what we saw, that they were harassing, they were chasing us. One of my friends was actually got very, I don't want to go, she's not here, so I don't want to talk.
Family.
But I was chased, I can tell you that I was chased to my car.
Well, if you look at the history of the Pahlavi family, which is not even their name, that's a made up name. His grandfather was the most effective killer in the Cossack army, illiterate, became the emperor, and killed untold numbers of people. And his father was an indecisive dictator, murderer, and massive thief. And he's lived off the money stolen from the Iranian people for his entire life. He never worked a day in his life. And he's getting up there like he wants to be the king of a country that his family had suppressed for 3/4 of a century and sold them out to the British. There was a period of time under his grandfather or his great-grandfather when Britain was getting 85% of the profit from the oil in Iran, and Persia was getting 15%. But then they had to pay taxes to Britain, and it was costing Iran, Persia money to sell oil.
That's
because but you know who was getting the kickback for that? His family. And that's what he's living off. That's why he gets to have food every day, because it was stolen from the Iranian people. And I can't believe those ignorant jackasses had him up there. And I used to really have great respect for CPAC. I just turned my stomach to watch that. because
I mean, it's
it really means you don't read world history. You know, you're too tied up in your own wanting ratings or whatever the hell you want. You can't sit down and read a book. I mean, something called a history book.
the thing that the people, the Reza Pahlavi's, I guess, crowd, I would call them, they were like occupying the hallways, and they turned it into like a stadium. They were just saying,
Yeah, they're a bunch of terrorists. They act like terrorists. They threaten me too. But I mean, it's like they really threatened me. The mafia tried to kill me. The Ayatollah tried to kill me twice. The FARC put out a contract to slit my throat. I'm going to worry about these little jackasses.
Yeah, so it was
like that. A hard time finding their way to CPAC.
Yeah, I mean, the police, had to, because the hallways were obstructed by their crowd, and they're chanting.
Yeah, and they act like gangsters.
Iranian flags and Israeli flags, American. So it was just like, and then a picture of Reza Pahlavi's. It was like it was a chaos.
I think you know how much money he paid for that. They couldn't have put him on there if they had done any research at all.
I mean, all I can tell you is that, if this is what he's planning to do or supposedly as a leadership, it's like, I would say it's a dictatorship 2.0 from, Reza Pahlavi dynasties coming back.
I don't think he's getting past the president. The president has any number of times kind of nicely brushed him off as a lightweight. And I know within the administration, they think of him as a lightweight. So I have no idea how CPAC sold out to him. But in any event, he's the least of our worries. He's not going to be there. Our worry is the Ayatollah we can't find anymore.
Yeah.
The gay Ayatollah.
We'll see.
Yeah. But anyhow,
find him in order to do away with him. But okay.
Well, Pahlavi's in Grapevine, Texas. That's 7,300 miles away from Tehran. So
yeah,
see what he can do. Being part of the resistance.
I remember we were in Paris and they almost bombed us. He was right there with us. No, he wasn't. He was sitting in some palatial place, using the money of the Iranian people to make himself fat and happy. But
yeah, he's expecting, I guess, other countries, other governments to do the job. And reinstate him as a king.
His father was put in put in that way, right? So
yeah,
it runs.
Yeah, because
well, thank you very much, Homeira.
Thank you, Mayor, for having me.
Bless you, and I'm praying every day and doing everything I can to help.
And God bless you. We'll check in again real soon.
Freedom from the Iranian people is so important to the world, and getting rid of that miserable, horrible regime. You can't imagine how that has prevented peace in the Middle East, particularly since President Trump's been in office first time. Even the Abraham Accords would have gone right straight through to Saudi Arabia if it wasn't for Iran, and they might have gone through even with Biden sitting there. And that's one of the reasons why they attacked Israel to break up a possible relationship with Saudi Arabia and Israel. And I don't know. We've talked enough. We've talked enough about the Nepo Shah, but it is a disgraceful indication of the frivolity and lack of discipline of our time, even among so-called conservatives, that they can put up a guy like that and not read history. And not do cold, rational analysis. I think when ratings or money get in the way, it kind of destroys that. It has to be. Otherwise, they're just plain ahistorical and stupid. He has only one qualification to be the king of Persia or Iran. If they want to have a king after having a dictator and a dictator king.
Speaking of no kings,
I've never heard of having a revolution to get a king, but okay. Let's say they wanted a king. You're not going to have a king who's never had a job in his life, never run a damn thing in his life, has very, very carefully stayed away from any of the difficulties when many other people have risked their lives. And he's got a qualification. His family. So you generally say, don't visit the sins of the father on the son. He's nothing but for the father. This is Mandani, just an older version of him. He's nothing. He's never done anything. He only has the position that he has, whatever the hell it is, because his old man was I don't think Shah. This was sort of not quite a peasant family, but pretty much a peasant family. His grandfather was a murderer, an illiterate murderer who became the emperor. And his father was a murderer and a massive crook. I mean, they stole everything from the whatever the Ayatollahs haven't taken from them, the Shah has taken from them. And this guy grew up a jet set life based on the stolen money from the Iranian people. And now he wants to be their king. And of course, he's fooled a lot of the establishment in America. And he's fooled a lot of the people who figure they can make oil deals with him. I mean, if his father and grandfather were willing to sell out Iran, why wouldn't he? They sold out Iran first to the British Petroleum, and then they sold out Iran to the American companies. So it's a disgrace that CPAC had him on, and it would be a good reason for them to kind of fold their tent. Nobody went anyway, so I didn't see the president there. I didn't see the president there. Well, in any event, let's just see if we can catch you up on a few of the things other than Iran that is going on. As we're paying attention to what's going on in the Middle East, Ukraine has had some major victories in the sense of pushing back and getting territory back and attacking into Russia. Yesterday, they hit Primorsk, which has about 40% of the Russian oil export capacity. And I don't know if they destroyed it completely, but it's now halted. That's going to put a little dent on Russia. They have taken back some of the Donetsk, and over the last 2 months, they've net gained territory against them. They had battles on the 17th of March and the 20th of March, and the Russians count 6,000 casualties. So you got to know they're more than that. According to Mike Pompeo's article, we're pressuring them to give up the Donbass to Russia. And Marco has denied that, which I will take Marco at his word. They shouldn't give a damn thing to Putin. Not a damn thing, particularly now. If you're getting Americans killed. The idea of negotiating with them and letting them have any kind of advantage out of this is ridiculous. If Iran goes, what has he not left? China? I don't know how much is left of China. I don't know how much is given the economy of China. They can't predict a 5% growth in GDP this year. Have you noticed for the last 5 years, they've grown exactly 5%? It's almost impossible to grow exactly 5% for 5 years in a row. Well, for the first time, they can't even fake it. So they're not predicting a 5% growth this year, which is a sign to everyone that their economy is in disaster. And Xi's approach is to order it out of a disaster, command it out of a disaster. You must be productive, or we'll start killing male children now. Or we'll take organs from everybody in China, not just the Falun Gong. Trump has announced that he has confidence in Tulsi Gabbard. My goodness, that's got to be like the kiss of death. When I had to announce I had confidence in one of my commissioners, I don't want to tell you what happened to them. I have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard. She may be against the war, but she may be. I have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard, and it wasn't her fault that Joe Kent turned out to be a traitor. the Japan Prime Minister is pushing with all of the strength of her massively gigantic character to substantially increase Japan's defense, which was increased by her mentor Abe. You want to frighten China? Rearm Japan. You're going back 2,000 years for that one. There's no one the Chinese psychologically fear more than the Japanese. Little tiny Japan, big, gigantic China, and almost always the Japanese have viciously destroyed them. The only time they didn't is when they had the help of the United States, Britain, and Russia. And they were getting beaten until we came into it. We were going to talk about Tiger Woods. We'll do it tomorrow night. It's really an unfortunate. I like Tiger Woods very much. I am a hawk on drunk driving that goes back to 1981 because I think it's the kind of murder that can be avoided. You just don't get behind the wheel of the car. Thank God he hasn't done that. That hasn't happened, but it seems like he's on his way to that. And whatever has been done, the interventions to date haven't worked. Maybe it's time for a real intervention. I was going to also talk, and we'll do it tomorrow because I want you to go over to Dr. Maria's show on Lindell TV. The coach of Arizona Wildcats, Tommy Lloyd, is somebody worth taking a look at because he's got Arizona in the Final Four. And you know what they don't do? Not that they don't do it anywhere near as much as any other team. And they don't feature it as part of their game. They don't take the three-point shot. And he's got a whole theory about that. And that theory has resulted in one of the best offenses in collegiate sports and a 36-2 record. So maybe we should spend a little time talking about that, Ted. They take all the other teams in the Final Four shoot the three-point shot 50% of the time or more. They are lower than 26%, which is the lowest in just about all of organized basketball. And they are one of the most productive offensive teams in sports, in basketball. And of course, they've got an unbelievable record, 36-2. And they play old-fashioned basketball, which is get the tallest man next to the basket and let him put it in, like Wilt Chamberlain. The old Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, isn't he the only one who has scored 100 points?
I believe so.
Yeah. I think that was against the Knicks, unfortunately. Somewhere in a suburb. It wasn't like in Philadelphia or New York. It was like in one of those towns in between New York and Pennsylvania. So we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll see where we're going. I think that we're getting very, very close to us having all of our chess pieces in place to do whatever the end result of this is going to be. It looks to me like the president is getting impatient for good reason, because he's been jerked around by the Iranians long enough. I mean, it really was telling that they wanted to get rid of Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner because they've been too mean to them. And they wanted JD involved. Now, that's been denied, and it may be untrue. I don't know. But it is kind of weird that we've got all these different versions of what's going on and not going on. So you have to assume that some of it is true. So we'll throw it all out there and then try to analyze it, okay? And so you come back tomorrow night, and we'll see how much further along we can get in this quest, which is maybe the one that's going to set the direction of a lot of the rest of the century. If we can get rid of the regime of terror, it's going to make the path to peace in the Middle East not just possible, but it's going to happen a lot faster than you think. But I'm very encouraged that if we can get rid of the reign of terror, we're going to take a big chunk out of both Russia and China. And so we'll spend some time on that tomorrow night, and I think I can show you how that happens. So thank you very much. Please pray for the people of Ukraine who are now making a real comeback. Let's pray for the people of Israel who have gone through so much, and the people of Iran. You saw that. You saw Homeira. They're wonderful people, subjected to this for 47 years. And of course, the United States and our great president. Pray for him. He's a great president. He's got tremendous resources. He makes great decisions, but it all happens with your help. He's only here because of you. Not just originally, but recently. So we'll see you tomorrow night. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk,